everybody. I want to talk to you today about two studies that can help explain why your dog might be aggressive or reactive because everybody wants to know, what did I do wrong? I must have done something wrong. I must not have socialized enough. I must not have trained enough. I must not have been dominant enough. And that's why my dog is aggressive and or reactive. And there are two super interesting studies that I think are worth talking about here. And as you can tell, I'm not in my normal office. I don't have my dogs with me. I'm traveling. I'm attending a retreat in the next 2 days. So just me. So the first one was done at McGill University in Canada, and it's a pretty famous study. It was done on mother rats, and it looked at the first 12 hours of nurturing. So it took a group of mother rats that did nurture their rat pups in the first 12 hours, and it looked at a second group of rat mothers who did not nurture those rat pups in the first 12 hours. And what they found was that in the first 12 hours, the mothers who nurtured and groomed and took care of their rat pups, when those pups grew up, their behavior manifested to being calm. They learned quickly, they were able to remember, and they were very resilient. You can read the study, there's lots of things, but they were like well-adjusted rats, right? And then the second group of mother rats who did not nurture or really take care of those rat pups in those first 12 hours, that's what they looked at. When those rats grew up to be adults, they manifested in anxiety, nervousness, not very resilient, took longer to learn, couldn't remember as well. And I think the most important thing is that their brain chemistry changed, and it couldn't necessarily be changed back, right? And the study was done in terms of human trauma and stuff like that, but we can also apply it to our dogs. So I've worked, there's another study I'm going to tell you about, but I've worked most recently with we have clients all over the country, and we have an online course where we all get together. But it's important to say that in two different parts of the country, one is a purebred and one is a mix of two purebreds, so a doodle mix. Both of these dogs, at the age of 3 weeks, their mother said, "I'm out of here," and stopped taking care of the puppies. And one was a litter of 11, and I think one was a litter of 8. And those dogs, as adults, had such an emotional dysregulation issue. It was incredible. Every single thing set them off. They had no ability to calm themselves. It was as if they thought the world was out to get them. And if you think about it, I mean, there's so much that is happening as puppies. I mean, neonatally as well, but we're talking about puppies after they're born and whether mom is taking care of them. So the fact that mom abandoned them at 3 weeks, they're sort of left to their own devices, right? And there wasn't a lot of nurturing and control and safety in place. Okay, so that's one thing. And the second thing is it was a study on mice. So it had adult mice, and one group of adult mice, they had an odor, let's just say it was almond, smelled almond, and then they were shocked. Okay, and then so they did that repeatedly. It doesn't take long for the mice to understand, oh my God, the smell of almond predicts this horrible thing to happen. And so just at the smell of almond, the mice would get nervous and shake and shudder, right, in anticipation that the bad thing is going to happen. And then the second group of mice did not smell any, they smelled the almond, but they were not shocked. Then they bred these two groups of mice. And what they found, super interesting, is that the mice who smelled the almond and were shocked produced babies that, as adults, when they smelled almond, they got nervous and shaked and shuddered in anticipation of the bad thing happening, although they had never been subjected to the shock. And this happened for 2 generations, you guys, 2 generations. It's called epigenetics. Listen, I'm not a neuroscientist. I cannot tell you all of how this works. But the way it was explained to me is that a little tag gets put on a gene when something significant and particularly scary happens, so that you remember, because the whole purpose of the animal kingdom is to live and survive and pass on your genes. And so let's just say some animals out in the woods and they have a near-death experience with a snake, but they survive. Boom, epigenetics comes in, and they're going to produce babies that are weary or afraid of snakes to avoid that bad thing so they can live on. So 2 generations of mice were produced that also were afraid of the smell of almond because grandfather had been subjected to almond and shock. Okay. Now the other group, the control group, also smelled almond, but they were never shocked, so therefore they weren't nervous or worried about it. So these 2 studies, if we start to think about it, like there's so much that happens, has happened, could have happened to your puppy or dog before they ever come into your home, right? I have some people that say, I picked up my puppy, they rescued the puppy at 8 weeks of age, and it took the dog, the puppy a week before he trusted and liked the person, right? That's probably almost a feral dog. But there is brain chemistry that's happening, and the whole, I don't want you to feel hopeless. I don't want you to say, oh, that's great, Denise, now what can we do about it? Or there's nothing to do about it. That's not true. There's lots of things that we can do about it. But what I want you to understand is that I really want the owner blaming and shaming to stop. Like, it's not your fault. It's not from a lack of socialization. It is not from a lack of training. It is not because you weren't dominant enough that you may have a dog that has some aggressive or reactive tendencies. There are so many other things like epigenetics at play. Like, was the mom nurturing? What kind of environment was the dog or puppy raised in? Okay. And we can make some headways by looking at the whole dog and by using some functional dog training. And when we use functional dog training, it is not sit down, stay, come and called. It is not about go to place or commands or do what I say when I say. It's about setting up the environment so your dog can be safe and be successful. It is about creating patterns so your dog knows what to expect next, because on the other side of anxiety is a pattern, is a routine. Oh, I know that I sit over here in this corner of the kitchen and I remain calm and the food bowl comes to me. That's an example of a pattern that reduces the anxiety about feeding time, because the dog knows what to do, what steps to follow in order to get fed. Okay, guys, so we are getting ready to host our next free webinar, Dog Aggression, Fact versus Fiction. Comment CALM, CALM, and I will send you the link so that you can be on the priority wait list. Fact versus fiction. Dog aggression, fact versus fiction. Come and learn why everything you've been told is not working. You cannot punish fear, anxiety, or epigenetics out of your dog. Okay, guys, see you later.